grabbed some camping gear and my dog, jumped in the car, and I started driving west. Was I afraid of driving across the country by myself? Not as much as my family was for me, but yes. Was I uncomfortable not having it all mapped out? They used to call me the Excel spreadsheet queen in corporate. So yeah, it was uncomfortable, and it was intentional. Like I literally drove outside of my comfort zone. Now, I would love to tell you, I was looking for fabulous, and I would love to tell you that on that road trip, I got all the answers to my questions, and that it was fabulous every single moment of the 6 weeks I was gone. But, I mean, where's the lesson in that, right? So if you'll allow me, I want to share with you just a couple aha moments, some insights, some lessons that I learned along the way that I still carry with me on my journey. And we're going to start at day 3. And I've been driving for hours and miles down a long, flat, some would say boring stretch of I-90 through South Dakota. Has anybody been to South Dakota before? And almost instantaneously, the landscape changes, like jaw-droppingly so. And I'm looking at these giant things, which I got to tell you, later that night I had to Wikipedia because I didn't know how to describe them. Apparently, they're sharply eroded buttes, pinnacles, and spears. Yeah, they're like, I'd never seen them before in my life. But these finger-like projections are coming out of the earth, and the sun was setting just behind them, and it's casting this beautiful glow. And it would have made a beautiful picture. It would have, but as old habits die hard, I was rushing. I was rushing the light. I wanted to find my campground. I needed to walk the dog and figure out what we were going to eat for supper. I needed to do on my road trip with no schedule and no agenda. And I kept justifying it, right? I'm driving by all these scenic outlooks, and I'm seeing people take the beautiful photo. And I'm like, tomorrow, I'll have lots of time tomorrow. There'll be lots of spots tomorrow. I'll just do what I got to do tomorrow. And the next day, when I'm driving out of Badlands National Park, the landscape just as abruptly goes flat. And I missed it. And so instead of capturing the shot, I pull out my journal and I capture, stop waiting till tomorrow when fabulous is right in front of you. Okay, so it's day 4. I got my lesson in my pocket. And this time, I'm in Black Hills, South Dakota. And I am stopped to appreciate the fabulous right in front of me. And although many probably will marvel at Gutzon Borglum, I don't know if I'm saying that right, 60-foot tall sculptures of faces in the side of a granite mountain, I'm standing there wondering, why them? Now, I can appreciate when they were deciding on which presidents would go on the side of Mount Rushmore that they chose those 4. I can understand that they made a huge impact on American history, but for me, I'm wondering, what caused them to be so audacious to do something so fabulous that someone would be inspired to carve their face on a mountain? How come they weren't settling for the status quo? How come they weren't settling for good enough? How did they have the huge vision? And so again, I pull out my journal. Dare to play big. There's nothing fabulous in playing small. I'm driving along, continuing west, and it's day 7. Standing in front of a beautiful falls, which is a lot to say because I'm actually from Niagara Falls. But I'm standing in Great Falls, Montana, and I'm thinking of 2 other American men, Lewis and Clark. And I'm going to spare you the history lesson that I needed to give myself along the way, but you cannot drive in those western states without learning about their expedition to chart and map the western expansion. But I'm standing in front of the falls, and I'm really appreciating what challenges and obstacles they must have been facing as they would have had to portage around the Great Falls. And I learned that as their gear was too heavy and the winds were too strong and they didn't know what they were going to do, they end up making wooden wheels out of the cottonwood trees, strapping them to a canoe, hoisting a sail, and literally dry land sailing across the wide expanse. I'm like, all right, obstacle or opportunity to propel you forward. It's my choice. Thank you, Lewis and Clark. I continue along, and I'm going to jump to the point where I'm coming down south through Washington State. Leo and I are hiking through the Redwood National Forest, and I've got all my lessons in my pocket. I'm like, capture the fabulous, Lisa. Have the perspective. And my challenge is, even though I bought this ridiculously expensive camera that I didn't know how to use, yeah, Rob, big DSLR thing. I think we had this conversation before I left. I had no idea how to capture the enormity of it. Like, I couldn't get far enough away from these huge things. When a thought occurs to me, I'll just put my 1-year-old puppy in front of the tree trunk. And as I'm snapping the photo, I'm like, size is all about perspective. See, I started this journey because I felt like I had been playing small. But I didn't really appreciate what it meant to play big until I had started interviewing people for my book who were like up to these big dreams and had these huge visions for their lives. And I thought, if I'm going to play big, I got to hang out with the redwoods of this world. So I'm continuing along. I don't know what day we're at right now, maybe 21. And I am buzzing by San Francisco because I've been there a couple times. I'm like, do I really need to go into the city? And then for some reason, something compels me to say, this is not a complete trip unless you have a picture of your dog in front of the Golden Gate Bridge, right? So I head into the city. I'm navigating through all the rush hour traffic. I'm dodging like tour buses, and I'm fighting for a parking space with 100 other tourists. And I'm squeezing through to get a picture of, trying to get the tourists out of my shot so I can just get the dog in the bridge, right? I mean, I was writing a blog. It needed to be pretty. When it hits me, like, I'm from Niagara Falls, as I told you. I hate super busy tourist attractions. I hate them. And here I was, following the crowd to somebody else's idea of what fabulous is. I mean, there was lots of beautiful bridges in and around the area if you haven't been there, but I needed that shot. Stop following the crowd to their idea of fabulous and decide that for yourself. Days 27 through 38. I'm headed eastward, back home, on the Mother Road, Main Street, USA, also known as Route 66. Sort of. I was on the interstates that basically overtook Route 66 and killed all the mom and pop shops. But I'm basically on Route 66, and it's hard not to be surrounded by the souvenirs and the bumper stickers and everybody telling you to get your kicks on Route 66. And of course, I'm on this giant interstate going, I don't get it. And I'm trying to understand what it is about Route 66 that is so fabulous. And I come to learn that the Mother Road came to symbolize going somewhere. For the farmers in the Dust Bowl, it was heading west. It was a trucking route in the 40s, vacationers going to LA in the 50s. But in general, it became a TV show and a song, and there's a lot of hype about it. But mainly, it became a symbol of adventure and rediscovery. I was like, that's kind of perfect. And just as I am trying to come up with the one thing, like, what was this road trip about? Because it wasn't about taking pictures of my dog in front of a bridge. And I'm trying to think of the answer, and I realize that maybe similarly to Route 66, there's just not one answer I need. That maybe I can just find fabulous right in front of me. That I can carve my own mountain. That maybe I can allow my obstacles to propel me forward. I can hang out with people that show me what it means to play big, and I can still choose my own bridge to fabulous. So as I'm driving the last few hundred kilometers of the Mother Road, I'm once again passing by the shores of Lake Michigan when the wave hits me. Gratitude. But I'm also learning overall that the main thing I learned on this trip is this. In my willingness to go on the adventure, when I got in the car, I got in the driver's seat. And although I didn't lose those fears and those self-doubts along the way, I learned to put them in the back seat. And that in of itself is how I find my own fabulous. Thank you.